Hey folks, a huge welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm Ben Slater, SVP of Marketing here at Beamery, the world leader in talent lifecycle management. Today we're discussing why workforce planning is dead, right? Or at least why it could be obsolete in its current iteration. So during the session, we'll be sharing how workforce planning needs to evolve to help businesses stay agile and to ultimately create the workforce and the skills that they need in the future. So let's get started. The reality is the way that workforce planning has been traditionally done does not suit the requirements for companies today in an ever-changing market. Traditionally, workforce planning is an exercise done once a year. It involves a lot of inputs and different information, budget, cost. Often there's a external consultancy that might be involved. It's a very time and cost intensive exercise, and the plan is set. Now, the problem with that is that, as we know, and I think this is from The Art of War, please don't quote me if I may have misplaced the quote, but no plan survives first contact. So organizations need to be able to change and develop their strategy. We know that workforce plans are a top priority for CEOs. Workforce transformation is, according to Gartner, at least a top priority for 2023. So getting this sorted and making sure that you're clear on how you can be successful and build the workforce of the future certainly matters. So as we said, agility is crucial, right? And companies need to be able to adapt to changes. Obviously over the last year, we've seen a huge amount of changes, from upcoming financial headwinds to COVID, to different supply chain issues that all put pressure on a company's strategy. And as we all know, the people, the talent, the skills that they have at the organization are ultimately the things that, or the leading component or the enabler of a successful execution against that strategy. I think the other thing that we need to be very aware of is that when we look at a successful workforce plan, the output is that an organization has the skills they need. Now, as is well documented, the skills that a business needs today are vastly different from the skills that they might need in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And in fact, recent data from the World Economic Forum suggests that the half-life of skills is shrinking dramatically. So at the end of 2021, they reported that skills are becoming about half as valuable every 4 years. So the skills you have today, again, 4 years in the future, will have less value. You'll need different skills, and you need to be able to adapt and stay agile to that potential future. Now, agility is a word that gets thrown around a lot, particularly in kind of business textbooks or management thinking. When we talk about workforce and business transformation, what does it mean? Well, really, in many instances, it means faster and better decision making. When we spoke to business executives about 6 months ago and asked what the biggest talent challenges were for 2023, something that came up a lot was that adaptability piece. So 51% of executives we spoke to said that they were significantly challenged when it came to being able to adapt talent approaches quickly to changing market conditions. So we know this is a problem. We know that leaders are aware of it. And we know that the current set of solutions, the current ability to plan, execute, and iterate is not well suited to fix this reality. So what are the flaws, right? Let's actually get under the surface and talk about it. So the first is the type of data and insights that workforce plans are typically based on. Now, we talk a lot, and you'll have heard a lot about the transition between work, or jobs rather, to skills. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So skills ultimately help an organization break a job down into all the different component parts of how work gets done. Instead of thinking about a job as a title, product manager, you're thinking about all of the different types of skills that get that job done or get that work done. That allows you to think about breaking that job into multiple smaller gigs or projects. It allows you to think about how the work of a product manager might be changing over time, and allows you to ultimately get a lot more out of that particular part of the organization. So when we think about workforce planning in a reality where skills and requirements are changing at light speed, basing the workforce plan on skills as well as the job architecture of your organization, so the jobs that you have and the skills that make those jobs successful, is incredibly important. And traditionally, workforce planning is not skills-based, so it's not based on that information that we know is crucial to the future of the organization. The second, and we've touched on this already, is the nature of workforce planning. So instead of a single point in time, workforce planning needs to be real time. It needs to be, well, at least it needs to be a real time component. You need to have an ability to adapt the plan on the fly, change the decision, adapt the plan to unforeseen circumstances. As an example, let's say the business strategy changes and you have an opportunity to make an acquisition, right? Or to open an office in a new geography. That's going to require a change of plan. It's going to require different calibration around the skills that are required, or the headcount availability within that new company, and that's going to require an ability to plan and change on the fly. So that component again doesn't exist in the traditional workforce planning process. Now, again, just some data to help frame this for everyone. This real-time view of skills, it doesn't exist right now in most organizations. So again, that same group of business leaders that we spoke to, only 56% thought their companies understood what skills they might need in the future. So, we're talking about something that's super important. We're talking about, the future of your workforce. And, we're talking about shifting this view to the skills you have today and the skills you need in the future. And right now, there are clearly some gaps in terms of knowledge and understanding. So how can a more real-time view of workforce planning help your business be more successful? So just to start off with, I think one of the key distinctions here is the ability to dynamically match business needs, so demand, with supply. So that might be the available talent you have within your organization, but also the available talent that exists within the market. If your goal is to open a new office in Singapore and, you're focused on hiring sales talent exclusively in the region, does that supply of talent exist, right? So being able to understand that geographically, within your business, and also understand the cost dynamics is very, very important. So with this information, your company can decide whether you want to build talent. So that would be upskilling or developing existing people, helping them learn new skills so they can develop into what you need. Does your organization think that buying talent, so recruiting in the market, is going to be the most cost effective? Or is it borrowing talent, so bringing in temporary contract resource to help support a particular business initiative? And all of this information, this kind of real-time data, helps managers calibrate the requirements that they have in terms of the requirements of their team, but also guide skill-based hiring and talent development that's going to help them close gaps and ultimately better execute on the strategy. I think the other thing that's worth calling out is where this process works well, insights from that execution component, insights from how hard is it actually to hire in this market, right? Or how successful are we actually being at resourcing our teams based on upskilling, that can tie back into the earlier stages of the planning process to help really turn this into a flywheel. And look, when this is done well, we're providing managers continuous insights that they don't have today and surfacing those in the flow of their work. So how can they better develop their team skill portfolio? When should they hire, right? And what the likely costs might be, and when is it faster to instead source and upskill workers internally? So that type of decision intelligence that can be provided in a contextual way based on the challenges that a business is facing and any kind of change or adaptation in strategy is incredibly valuable if we think about executing more effectively as a business, which is the ultimate output or outcome of any type of planning exercise. Now, all of this comes down to skills data, right? And we're talking about building a strategy to acquire the skills you need. It always starts off with the skills you have today. And, what we tend to see across our customer base is that getting that skills data together can be pretty challenging. Companies either have skills data, incomplete skills data, that's spread across a couple of different sources. They might have done a project at a certain point in time with a consultancy to create an initial skills taxonomy and job architecture. But as we've already discussed, skills needs, jobs are changing very quickly, so that information is largely out of date. Or they might be starting from nothing, right? They might be starting from a cold start. So going from 0 to 1 is challenging. Where we tend to see a lot of impact with our customers at Beamery is using AI to create that initial skills taxonomy and job architecture, bringing together sources of information that exist already, updating and keeping that information real time and accurate is an incredibly important component of this. Without that foundation, it's very difficult to move to a skills-centric approach to hiring and talent development, but it's certainly very, very challenging to look at skills-based workforce planning. We obviously know that there are concerns that people have in the market around AI, particularly around things like explainability. Does it lead to bias? How easy is it to audit these models? We at Beamery are very much a leader when it comes to explainability and auditability when it comes to AI, and huge believers that AI is here to support human decision-making versus replacing decision-making. We're big believers in what we call human-in-the-loop AI. AI should be here to empower and enable humans to perform better and to create greater outcomes versus any kind of replacement. AI, if used properly, though, can obviously have a broad range of benefits, and there are some on the screen here today, all around empowering better decisions and improving the quality of data that you have on your organization to help you move faster and ultimately get more done. As we've said, it can help you identify the skills which are most important now and where those skills are most likely to go in the future. So help you as an organization stay competitive and help ensure that you're building a strategy which is going to position your company in the market moving forward, which is incredibly important. So ultimately it boils down to this: workforce planning needs to change if we as businesses are going to stay competitive, stay agile, and continue to develop and evolve our workforces. Getting started can be challenging, and it all comes down to thinking about the essential unit of that workforce plan, which is the skills of your workforce today and what skills you need in the future. Getting started with that again can be challenging. So what we always recommend is looking at the information that you have today about your workforce and comparing that to the information you might need to make the right decisions around your talent and around where your talent might need to develop. Once you have the view of where you are today and the view of where you might want to go in the future, then you can start to build a strategy to close that gap and understand the best channels to go ahead and do that, whether that's hiring new talent or upskilling existing employees. So hopefully everyone who's joined today has found this interesting and is excited about the future of workforce planning, which we believe is very bright at Beamery and very much suited to how organizations need to operate and stay agile in today's market. Thank you for joining. If you'd like to follow along or connect with me on LinkedIn, all the information is just here. If you'd like to get in touch with me directly, feel free to drop me an email. And thank you so much for joining, and happy Wednesday.